Mesachas Taanis daf hey. The Gemara brings a story. The Klal only had a small amount of tefua, and nevertheless the Navi told Klal Yisrael to plant the tefua, and it was not slavnazed, and the tefua grew in 11 days. And they brought the korban omer from the tefua that they grew. Ein Shuvas Mishnah Halachis. That's interesting discussion about what's muvur over here. Even though it grew derech nes, because it grew in 11 days, nevertheless they were able to bring a korban omer from the tefua that grew derech nes, and he asked, it's tzarechim for that's muvur. In the Gemara, in Menachas Daf Samachtes, that the Gemara is a shayla chitim sheyordu ba'oven. Do you say the chitim that were created derech nes has a din of chitim for the korban omer, who doesn't have a din of chitim for the korban omer? And he says it's tzarechim. Why is it different? And it's more over here that's mavur, even though the chitim grew derech nes in only 11 days, nevertheless they were kosher for the korban omer. So that the Chuvas Mishnah Halachas proves that's cholok. That only when by chitim there's yordu ba'ovim that came totally through a miracle. Over there the Gemara declares that doesn't have a regular status of chitim because its creation was entirely derech nes. However, in a situation where the creation was b'derech hateva and there was a nes that the derech hateva worked quickly, since the creation was al pi derech hateva, it doesn't have a chesaron, the fact that it was noila derech nes. And according to this Yisoid, he argues on what's mavur and Sefer derech pekudecha, there has a discussion if someone married a isha that was an idleness, and the derech nes, he had a child. The derech pekudecha says since he wasn't oisik and urivu b'derech hateva k'minhaga shaloylam, because idleness b'derech hateva can't have a child, he's not mekayim the mitzvah of urivu. So on that the Mishnah Halachas argues and says, although if you have a child totally b'derech nes, then it could be not mekayim the mitzvah of urivu. But over here, since idleness was noila the b'derech hateva, so therefore it doesn't have a din as if it was born b'derech nes. And so in the geder nowadays, when children of noila derech IVF, ukedoima, the maaseh, according to the Mishnah Halachis, the baby was born b'derech hateva. The Sefer Minchas Soilas on the chinuch is matmiya on this chiddush of derech pekudecha. How could it be that since the baby was born b'derech nes, now mekayim mitzvah of urivu? Why is it different than that that's mavur in the sugya Yevamis, that if Gershon is gayer and he had children before he was nizgayer, mekayim mitzvah of urivu? So it's mavur akorchoch. The mitzvah of urivu is not the bia. The mitzvah of urivu is having the children. So therefore, what's the difference if it was noila derech nes? Noila derech nes is not worse than if you mekayim the mitzvah of urivu when you were goy. And he brings two other achronim that are mavur, like Ike Yisoid Dvarv, that the mitzvah of urivu is totally in the actual bia, because Sheil Siyayv says that if someone was boal ishtoi b'toich shnasa and had a child from the bia, since a yoshan is allowed by dasu klal, therefore he's not mekayim the mitzvah of urivu. And the Taz writes that if someone had a child not b'derech bia, but through laid the derech hambat, he's not mekayim the mitzvah of urivu. So you see that the mitzvah of urivu is totally in the derech bia. And be'emes, it's a tremendous machlokes achronim. And these three stud, the Chinuch understands that the key mitzvah of urivu is the actual having the ben obas, the leidas abonim, and not the bia b'chlal. So yes, and Taisis in babas David Gimel that Nemzon the passes as the say on the bia of urivu is that it's not beidna, because the whole mitzvah of urivu is at the time of Eiladas Bonim. Rabbi Chanan the Kavitz Aris says the maaseh mitzvah is the bia, but the kiyah mitzvah is Eiladas Bonim, and it passes as a dechalei say on the maaseh bia. And Moshe Feinstein the Besmoish is a third sheet that holds the mitzvah, and the kiyah mitzvah is the bia. But if you have children, it's a p'tur in the mitzvah. So it's mavur Pashtus and Derech B'Kudecha, and the Shelas Yavitz and the Taz, that the mitzvah peru is mitzvah the maaseh, not like the Minchas Chinuch that's just Hadadas Bonim. The Minchas Chinuch says that you can be madcha the raya from the fact that you became mitzvah peru on the Bonim that you had when you were goy is because it's not a key mitzvah, rather it's a petur in the mitzvah since you have Hadadas Bonim. The Chiddush of the Shelas Yavitz, the Chortz Toli, and the tremendous Chiddush of Rosh Hashanah Zalman that he holds that when someone's sleeping, he doesn't have a din of a urivu b'chlal, he's potem, and a mitzvah says halacha like a shaita. Therefore, he held that once someone's sleeping, you could take him out of the sukkah because he's not a urivu in the mitzvah b'chlal. And by emes in the chiddush of the Shelas Yavitz, you could say even if the mitzvah is the bia and not the halacha is bonim, nevertheless it could be a mekayim a mitzvah even. According to what's mavur in Chaim and Hilchos Chametz Matzah, which you put in Shulam Psachim, that says that although it's mavur in the Gemara Rosh Hashanah Daf Chav Ches that eatim shaita v'eatim cholim, if he eats matzah at the time he's a shaita, he's not mekayim mitzvah. Nevertheless, a cotton that was nisman on Korban Pesach, even though he's also in Lav B'Chiyuv, his his mitzvah, and his potter in Pesach Sheni, and Reb Chaim explains that Korban Pesach is different since besides the maaseh mitzvah he has a Korban Oiloloi. So the fact that there's a Korban Oiloloi is mashve the krovas Korban Pesach into maaseh mitzvah, even though it's a Lav B'Chiyuv. So who adin over here, you could say that since there is a key mitzvah of the fact that the bonim were nulad through the beer, that's good for mash for the maaseh beer into maaseh mitzvah, even though at the time of the beer he was sleeping and he didn't have a din like a B'Chiyuv. Nevertheless, the haladas bonim is mash for the beer into maaseh mitzvah. Moving from on the Gemara basis, ein masichin biseudah. The Sefer Yashish Yaakov brings from a nach that's matmi on this Gemara. What's the chiddush? The Gemara ein masichin biseudah is in Furish Sugya in Brachas Daf Mem Beis. The bolim yayin b'seich hamolza and kol echad vorich la'atzmoi, and the reason is because ein beis habli aponoi and b'choishish for a sakana, that if someone is going to listen to the bracha and mevorich is coming with a sakana, so it's klor like the chiddush of ein masichin biseudah. On that, Yashish Yaakov says the answer is that not because he bowled in the sakana b'choishish that he's going to listen to the bracha at the time that ein beis habli aponi, he's in the middle of eating and he can't answer because he has food in his mouth, so therefore he can't be yotze with shmei koine because he is ainly roy to answer on the bracha. The Sefer Birchas Shais matmiya on this teretz. Why is that? The reason it can't be yotze shmei koine yotze with the shmiyah, the fact that mitzias you weren't able to answer amen on the bracha. Why is that a reason that you shouldn't be able to yotze the bracha? Birchas Shais says, according to Rashi and brachas and vur different teretz, that the reason why kol echad vorach la'atzmai is because they're not mechaven to be yotze with the bracha. In the ikar halacha of ein masichin biseudah, it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, and the Achronim ask it's tzarachin, it's not brought in the Rambam, and it's further tzarachin. The Chidah writes in Birchei Yosef the kol yomav nihiyud star on the fact that he saw gedolim not being nizar in the issa of masichin biseudah and tzarachin's open Gemara. Why isn't the ilm nizar in halacha of ein masichin biseudah? And the Birchei Yosef writes until he saw the prisha that explains that the whole issa of ein masichin biseudah was at the time of Chazal that the minig was to eat derech haseba, so therefore it was a derech sakana to talk while you're eating. However, b'zman hazeh that we're not noyig to be massive at the time while we're eating, it's not considered derech sakana. But he says nevertheless it's tzarchim because the Pish himself writes that he hasn't seen such a svara in the Rishonim, and according to the Prisha, but they'll say that we're noyig to eat derech haseba, you should be nizar in ein masichin biseudah. The Aruch HaShulchan answers as kasha that the whole is of ein masichin biseudah is a sicha derech arichos, few words, and doesn't have an issa of ein masichin biseudah. And he says it's tzarachim from the fact that it's mvur the more sugim brachas, that even asus, even to say gesundheit is also because ein masichin biseudah. So Chashulchan and Shartshuva explained that the reason why we're not noig to be nizar, it's because since doshu barabim shoymer psoim Hashem, and it can be soymach on the fact that shoymer psoim Hashem. The Achronim ask that tzarachin, since the halacha is ein masichin biseudah, so how could you say divrei Torah on the shulchans Mavur and Mishnah and Ovis, that any shulchan that doesn't have divrei Torah is kilu ochel zivchei mesim. Ein Magen Avram. The Aruch HaShulchan says either you said divrei Torah before Netilas Yadayim or right before Birchas Hamazon. But you could say it was between the different courses when people weren't eating. However, the Precious Mavur, even between courses, has the Issa to Mesiach Biseudah. Ein Sefer Ein Yaakov from the Shvus Yaakov and the Bayin of the Ein Yaakov that says that it doesn't pertain to Allah of Ein Masichin Biseudah by Divrei Torah because Torah is Megan, so therefore you're allowed to say Divrei Torah on the Shulchan, and explains that the Gemara by us said Ein Masichin Biseudah, and only afterwards he said Yaakov Vino Loimeis, he wasn't concerned to say Ein Masichin Biseudah because it's Divrei Torah, and Divrei Torah is Megan Umatzal. However, he says Yaakov Vino Loimeis, since it's only Divrei Agoda, on that doesn't pertain to Allah of Divrei Torah Megan Umatzal. So he an understanding of that Divrei Agoda doesn't pertain to Torah Megan Umatzal. Ayin Birchas Avram, that's matmi on the in Yaakov. Divrei Agoda also has Allah of Torah, and you mekayim mitzvahs Talmud Torah if you learn Divrei Agoda. So an understanding of Machlokes Achronim, the Yaakov's understanding that Torah is Megan Umatzal, other Achronim Magen Avram, the Aruch HaShulchan Amon, even on Torah passes the Issa of Ein Masichin Biseudah. Other Achronim say even by Achila on Shabbos, since it's a mitzvah, the mitzvah is Megan. And Surchin, what's the Oimik of Machlokes? The Kubid Machlokes is totally, if it's considered Shchiach HaZeika, when you're talking in the middle of eating, is it considered Shchiach HaZeika or not? If it's Shchiach HaZeika, then you don't say Shtuch Mitzvah in the Zaykin. It could be Machlokes is totally if it's a Gzeres Chazal and Chazal Asert Masichin Biseudah because of the Tzerich Tzakana, so therefore it's a loy plug in all situations. It's also, and it's very much mashma like that in the Pish that says even in between two courses, it's also a koch, it's like a loy plug. It's Tzorchin Oid Bezeh.